Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North East Non-League Show, episode 63, which is our show about the steps 1 to 4, and it's the December and January review. It's sponsored by DJ Private Hire, Gateway Accountancy Services Limited, Elite Goalkeeper Academy, and Motivate. Join us tonight. We have Jacob, Peter, and Andrew. Thank you very much, lads, for all coming on the show to discuss your clubs tonight. Really appreciate your effort and your support.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Before we get on to the obviously the leagues itself, we're going to ask the guests just about their teams in general. So starting with yourself, Jacob. Since you've last been on, it's getting a little bit better. New manager in charge, but a poor season, a double boost of budget. Gowland's gone, Watson in, crazy times. Wayne, what's your thoughts on the season so far?
I'm just still in a bit of a shock of where we actually are positioned in the league, like especially for the size of our club. It's really bizarre. I mean, getting rid of Gowland was the best decision. It needed to happen. It needed to happen way back when we got beat by Charlie 8-0. That's where it should have been there and then done, because that should have been ringing alarm bells. But getting Watson in was the right man. Especially with Terry Mitchell coming in as assistant. I'm quite happy with the appointment. The dual boost budget, again, speaks for itself. Our fans, we all do it every year. In the worst of times, the position we are in the league, that we still hit that target is just, I have no words for our fans. They're just phenomenal. But I think hopefully that money should get us a few players in, hopefully get us firing again, and then hopefully staying up. I never thought I'd say that. To try and stay up, like in a relegation fight. But yeah, we've just got to go for it.
No, I hope, like I say, I think the fans deserve a lot of credit, especially the second booster budget for Stuart. I think there'll be a lot of credit down to the fans getting that money and getting the 1 or 2 players, and that might make the difference. So hats off for that one. Come to yourself next, Peter, and obviously Whitby Town, a decent season so far. Good FA Cup run, the playoffs look impossible. You must be happy so far with Whitby this season.
Yeah, this time last year, I was very worried about the club. We'd set off the season with 1 point out of the first 21 points. Yeah. And we were going into February where we had 8 games. It looked as though it was going to be relegation. But remarkably, we signed Josh Wheatley, and everybody stepped up, played 8 games, won 5, drew 1, lost 2. Then March and April we struggled through till the end of the season, so we escaped relegation by about 6 points. We kept most of last year's team. The board strengthened, bringing players in like Jakob Grattan, Junior Mondal. We bought Joe Wheatley, but unfortunately he got injured in the second game after about 10 minutes. He's about due back, so hopefully we'll get the same impact this February from him. But we started off season with 3 straight wins. First time that's happened for about 30 or 40 years. And then obviously we had our FA Cup run. And our ballers said, when Tony Lee was manager and when Harry Dunn was manager, fear no one. Doesn't matter what league they're in, fear no one. And I haven't said that for an awful long time, but I've started saying it now. The only thing, I did make a statement end of last year, the only thing we need to worry about if we're going to get into playoffs is the bloody weather. So I got that. We've had 6 at home, 3 in December and 3 in January. But the good news is, going forward, the 7 teams above us, we played them all away, beat 4 of them and lost to 3 of them by 1 goal, which is excellent, absolutely excellent. And moving it, we'll play Workington on Saturday away if it's on, and that'll leave us 5 games to go. So unless there's bad weather, we'll have 5 away games on a Saturday. We've only played 9 at home, so we'll have 11 games to get in at home. At the moment, we've got 4 home games arranged for February, but we're expecting at least another 1 or 2. So potentially we could have 6 home games in February.
Wow. Yeah.
as long as the weather tidies up.
You'll end up playing 7 games a week by the end of the season, I think.
I'm confident. We've lost the last couple of games at Worksop. In my opinion, the 2 times we've played Worksop, they've definitely played the best against us on both occasions. We only got beat 1-0. And then we got beat 1-0 at Warrington Rylands. Again, who had 2 or 3 really good players. We missed a penalty, unfortunately. Jakob Bratton's been the man who's been banging him in from penalties, but on this occasion he missed, so we missed out on a point there. But we still, if we can win although we've had loads postponed and we've had an FA Cup run, we're only 1 or possibly 2 games behind, so we're not a lot worse off than other teams as far as games are concerned. Certainly not as badly off as poor Dunstan, I noticed. They're absolutely miles behind.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Well,
definitely. Happy so far, excellent. Now to yourself, Andrew, and obviously Stockton. I know we had Jeff on last week, Jeff Winter, and he was mentioning kind of happy times at Stockton, all going right. He said he didn't want to mention the blip just in case, but I say you're flying at the top of the league at the minute. Promotion looking odds on. You must be happy with the season so far.
I don't like saying that for a start, because I've been involved in non-league football for 10 years now, going into 11 years, and I know how things can change within them last few months. Yeah. So no, I don't think it's odds on. If you look at the league table, for example, you've got Dunstan 10 points behind with 4 games in hand. Now I know Peter's just said they've got a massive backlog at home, and I always like to say I like to have points on the board rather than games in hand. But no, I don't think it's odds on, but I would back the lads to get over the line this time. Obviously, you've had the last 2 seasons where they've got the playoff final and disappointing to lose in the playoff final. But I think there's something a little bit different about that team now. Obviously, I formerly worked for them for 2.5 years as head of media. In this season, there's something a little bit different about them. So I do think they'll get over the line, but I don't think it's cut and dry yet.
Yeah, really nice. Like I say, a massive game Saturday. I can't wait for that one. It'll be if that's probably one of the biggest games in the non-league the weekend. That one, really looking forward to seeing what the score will be in that one. So before we get on to the leagues now, we're going to be starting with the National League, chatting to Peter and Andrew in that one, and on Jacob to his thoughts on the National League as well. But starting with Gateshead and taking away just outside the playoffs at the moment, but obviously with so many players getting sent back on loan, so many players coming in, it seems to be kind of just keep the same squad at the moment. Start with yourself, Peter. I mean, not the best form of late for Gateshead. Lots of players, like you say, coming in and out, kind of keep that same settled squad. Do you think things may change, or do you think it'll start slipping down the table now going on?
Well, I was having a look at where they are in league, and if you look at Chesterfield, they've obviously won league already by the looks of it. And fair enough to beat Gateshead 5-0, but other teams have to still go to Chesterfield, so I suppose that's one consolation. Bromley and Barnet look as though they're possibly going to be playoffs. Then there's a whole host of teams who are already in the playoffs, followed by a few others, including Gateshead, who are there or thereabouts. Gateshead do have a game in hand, so potentially if that had been played, they could have actually been in the playoffs now. They lost the manager and the management team, which was obviously a big blow to them. But still, they're still hovering around. And Gateshead being Gateshead, what I've seen of them over the years, they've had all sorts of disasters, but they always managed to bounce back. So I don't think this is a big issue for Gateshead. Obviously, Dan Bell, I watch a lot of his videos, and he's obviously not just a fanatic for Gateshead, he's a fanatic for any team, basically. He just loves his football, doesn't he? And when he was celebrating the match being cancelled, I thought, shit, why is he celebrating that? Yeah. But it was because we need to get players fit and we need to get players in. We bought ourselves a bit of time, but in 12 days' time, you might get a better idea where they are. Because on Saturday, they're at home to Barnet, who were third. They're one of the top three good teams, right at the top. And then they're away to Southend, who were just below them. And then in midweek, they're at home to what's the name? They're just the other team. Hold on, where are they? Eastleigh. So Eastleigh and Southend are immediately below them. So their games they need to win, else they're going to be overhauling them, aren't they? So there's 9 points there to be gathered. They might end up with none. You know, if they'll have to be really, really careful. I hope they do okay. There's a guy at Scarborough who's doing remarkably well, and I couldn't understand why they'd extended his loan with Scarborough, because with him doing so well at Scarborough. But I was reading a little piece on the Gateshead website, and it looks like they're doing the right thing. You know, it's come from a level 6 to Gateshead. They want to make him a good player. They've sent him to a good club where he's doing really, really well. And he figures in their plans, and they might bring him back if they're desperate to bring him back. But they want him to play football and prove that he can do it at the league below. I could never understand why they used to ask Paul Blackett round the houses. You know, he come to Whitby just before the pandemic, and he scored 9 goals in 10 games straight in, started scoring straight away. Pandemic spoiled it. You know, we were hoping and praying when they kept extending his loan that there might be an opportunity to sort of buy him. Then obviously pandemic come and that squashed all that. But Paul Blackett, you know, I watch his progress all the time, and he's now settled at South Shields, and he's West top scorer in the league now. But I could never understand why they used him, but it's maybe the same reason. You know, because the level's so high, they can't afford to risk him, can they?
That's it, isn't it? No, interesting to see, like you say, if he does come back into that one as well. And on to yourself, Andrew, now in Hartlepool. Obviously, Kevin Phillips coming in charge, and I know Jacob's dying to have a go at this one, the Darla from. I'll come to Jacob in a minute for this one as well. But obviously, the news today, the takeover with the fans, is kind of that's ended. I mean, it took them so many weeks to get so much money on board to say this is our offer, and he's kind of said, well, that's not going to be enough to keep the club running. I mean, what's your thoughts on Hartlepool? Do you think Kevin Phillips can change things on, but because there's so much in the background, is it just going to kill them?
It's obviously disappointing when any North East non-league team goes through that. To be honest, like my focus in non-league is a little bit lower down, but I do keep tabs on the teams higher up. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things will turn around. With regards to Kevin Phillips, it might be a little bit controversial, but I thought it was quite a random appointment. Now, if you look at his time at South Shields, everyone knows the budget there, the size of it. If you look at the season they went up, they did have them blips. I know they ended up going up, but I thought he could have done a lot better with that squad. Now, him as a manager, I think there's probably better names out there, but again, he got the job done with South Shields. Fingers crossed, he'll turn the tide with Hartlepool, and they start turning the corner soon, because it's a great club. I know their old head of media there, Alex Chandy, a really nice lad. So hopefully they do turn it around, like I say, and because it's never nice to see any North East non-league club struggling. I know obviously you'll go on to talk about Mask, for example, or Mask, I should say. But yeah, it's never nice to see, is it? Yeah,
it's not good, is it? I mean, apart from Jacob, I imagine it was party time. No massive rivals, darling,
Wow. Even if it's a non-league team in the North East, and it's hard to pull at the end of the day. I'm not going to say that I'm happy that it's happened. Like, I'm happy that it's happened. I'm glad that it's not happened, because we try to warn him about Radson. We've warned him so many times, and he just don't listen. And look what's happening.
You look higher up, and they've got the ownership checks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you get a little bit further down, and you still find people like that are involved in football, and it just baffles me. And even going a little bit further down, like down to the Northern League, and you look at the teams across the years, and obviously for me personally, Blythe AFC springs to mind, who obviously folded. But there's been so many owners over the years where they've obviously pumped money in thinking it was going to work. And then as soon as they get tired, they just pull the plug in it. There's got to be some check put into place and some regulations where they don't just let anyone in with a bit of money. In a year's time, they get sick and then the club just goes to pot. So, like my belief, especially after the Blythe AFC thing, because I was head of media there, I do think even before that, and then since, there needs to be some form of check, because as Jacob said, he's got history of. Obviously, I've got to be careful what I say, but he has got a bit of history.
Oh,
it's
100%.
known. It's known. He's got history, and that's the proof of it. Look how many times we bounced back when we went into administration with what's his name, Horton.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Horton, Reynolds, whatever. Sorry, not Horton. Reynolds. Why did I say Horton? Reynolds, I meant. Sorry. And obviously we bounced back from there, from administration. And then obviously when Raj came in, it's killed it. Something like that.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? But on to the National League North now, and just going to be chatting to Jacob about this bit, so I'm just going to pop these on move, Peter, and just why I go through with Jacob about the next scene as well. So getting on to the National League North, and obviously, like you say at the moment, teams doing okay, some teams doing not so bad. But I mean, we have to talk about that mad week. I know we've had a couple of shows since, Jacob, and I mean, the manager's coming and going. Never, ever will that ever happen again at this level, will it?
No, I've never seen such a manic week. Just crazy. Obviously, Fenton going was a shock, and then Gowland was obviously predicted to happen, and then I didn't really expect Arca to go. Or same with Spenny's manager either, but that was just mental.
Crazy, man, isn't it? But getting on to the teams, obviously, in that league, and it's surprising how we're going to actually talk about Blythe first, and obviously the start that they've had. I know even Blythe fans tip themselves to struggle this season. Obviously, Fenton goes, a lot of worry. John Shaw comes in and 2 great wins against South Shields to start things off. You can't ask for any better than that. They must be happy with the season that they're having so far, and you never know, it could be them dark horses that push for the playoffs come the end of the season now, isn't it?
Yeah, Blythe have just shocked me, because I have a bit of a crack with all them, with Dan and all that. They obviously put me on Twitter and stuff saying I'm #1 fan, because I went to a game with them a couple of I've been to a few games with them. They're a good bunch up there, but
yeah,
obviously every year they're always thinking that they're going to do rubbish. They're always going to be down there, but since obviously Fenton's gone, John Shaw's stepped up, doing a great job. Obviously they've lost Cedric Main, and the lad went back to Hartlepool as well. So they've lost a few clinical players, but they've brought some in. What's going on? They've brought that lad in on loan. He's scored a few games. I don't know what's his name.
Yeah, just like you say, they're replacing. Like you say, you get a worry like Main's gone. That could be it now. Then they just keep seeing some form going. Don't I mean? I watched them on the other night against Scarborough, and it was a great game. To be fair, obviously Rutledge nicking it, but they just look a decent side overall on the pitch. To be fair,
no, definitely, yeah. They're definitely one of those teams they're a surprise that everyone thinks they're going to turn them over, but they actually are a very good side. Play a very good
really
football. And yeah, they know the players that they've got at the club. They've definitely can be up there.
So I'm just laughing at Ian there. Just put it missing the Darwin Pool game last time they played. The horse stood on his foot and broke his foot. Bloody hell! But yeah, it'd be great to get the Derbies back, wouldn't it? You never know. A couple of seasons and what league it will be in, you never know. It would be absolutely fantastic to see. It would be. Getting on to South Shields next, and like you say, a great start at the start of the season. I mean, a couple of fans that we had at the start of the season said they'll be finishing mid-table this year, which I thought was a little bit low for them. But obviously, after the great start, there was a poor run followed. Art leaves. The club's still up for sale again on certain times there as well. But the last couple of games, they have picked things up. Another one the other night, Blackett's getting a couple of goals as well. Do you think they'll now push on towards the playoffs, stay up there, or do you think there will be another blip coming for them?
No, I definitely do think that they'll be up there. They are a very, very good side for this league. Obviously, they know about the money involved and the calibre of the players that they have at the club. You say Blackett, one of the best strikers in the league. You've got Lefudu, what his name is, the right back who
Yes,
was at Spenny.
Spenny.
You've got a few good players in there, and they're a well-run club. I think they'll definitely be up there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the next one I would just touch on Spenny there. I know we had the Spenny fans on last week, and again, same as South Shields, a great start of the season. And again, form dropped. Dickman goes, Lee comes in, and for the first time, Spenny is starting to see a few, like you say, we've seen Anderson Lee, which was a massive shock. And I think there could be one or two players that's been there for quite a while, possibly moved on in the summer as well. And there's a few players out of contract. Lee's trying to bring his own players in, put his own stamp on things. But it's strange to see Spenny in that position because you always say that set squad pushing for the playoffs. The manager's always kind of safe. It's strange to see them like this now, isn't it?
No, yeah, definitely. Spenny are a bit of a weird one, aren't they? They've got some good players. You've got Taylor, you've got Ramshaw, you've got a few good players up there, definitely. And obviously Lee's wanting to come in and do his own thing, bring a few lads in from Marsk, try and strengthen the squad. And obviously they lost Anderson the other week. Obviously he's been the big asset at Spenny. He's always been there, very good player. But I think that they might lose a couple of players. I think Taylor might go in the summer, maybe if they can't keep him. But I think he's done his time at Spenny now. I think he's done as much as he can for them. But I think they'll be definitely still trying to get some results and try and get them up the table. Obviously, they want to finish on a high.
Yeah, hopefully, like fingers crossed. I mean, the last 6 games, literally 1-0, draw 1, lost 5. It's a really poor form at the moment. And like you say, another loss, possibly another loss after that, and that's when you really start panicking. And it's just kind of it's not what's needed. I mean, touching on the next side, Darlington as well. Obviously, sitting 23rd at the moment, played 7, but they have won 2 games, and them 7 games, lost 5. And Watson now comes in. I think it's nice to see a new manager come in when people are struggling, new ideas, a couple of new players. You move a couple of players on. And do you think now with the players, both that might come over the next couple of weeks, that you've got enough now to steal with Watson in charge?
I think so. I think if he can strengthen the squad, we've got a chance of staying up. I mean, we've not lost in the last 2 games. We may not have played or kicked the ball, but at least we've not lost for the past 2 games.
Yeah.
But obviously, until we actually play the rearranged fixtures. I mean, the other night was a bit mental. I was walking to the game, walking through South Park. I mean, I'd walked from like my house into the town, and it was about 15-minute walk, and it was absolutely like hoying it down with rain. So I was thinking, oh my god! And I was walking through with my drum, and then we walking to the ground, and then they were like, my mate rang me, he was at the ground saying, "Oh, it's being called off." I was like, "Nah, I don't believe you." And everyone, got to the top of the road, and everyone was just coming back this way. I was thinking, oh my god, it actually has been called off. But no, I think these games that we have to play, like that are rearranged, we've got a few games in hand on teams above us. If we can pick up the points, I think there's definitely a strong chance for us staying up. We've got to start getting points at home. I think we've got to start on Saturday against Hereford. It's they're a good side, Hereford, well drilled, but I don't think they'll deal with the long journey coming up. You've just got to wait and see, really. Football's a strange game. We could turn up on Saturday because sometimes we can wow teams away. Some weeks I'm like, how on earth are we in this position? And then there's weeks where I'm like, yeah definitely we are in this position for a reason because of how much of a shambles it is at times. Like there's no attacking threat. I mean, you've got Asante who we signed, supposed to be the big dog of this league. I think he's on a ridiculous wage, and he's just not firing in. And it's one of those panic buys that Gowland brought in. And if Gowland was in charge any longer, if Gowland was still in charge now, I'd be like, yeah, we're going down. But I think Steve Watson's definitely gonna. He's got experience in this league. He's an experienced manager. He knows the North East very well, very heavily linked with Newcastle. There's talks that he's obviously trying to get a few youngsters in. But like I say, if we try and get the right players in, I think definitely we'll stay up, but it's
Definitely.
down to what happens.
Yeah, asking where your drum is every game. It's
Yeah.
Adam as well. He's mentioned there about 1.4k a week. I mean, that kind of what I was going to ask you. So I was at the Northallerton game and Heaton on Saturday, and I kind of heard a few of the staff talking, and someone actually mentioned. I want to ask you this actually. Adam Boyes, a player that's released by Mask, actually got offered more money to go and play for Redcar in the Northern League compared to Darlton. And it was I don't know how true it was, but that just shows you the level of money that's getting paid now. And even like the Northern League, it's crazy, isn't it?
Well, Asante is on that money a week, according to what I've heard. Asante is on £1,400 a week, which is absolutely ridiculous for National League North striker. Exactly, but he definitely wanted that money to obviously come and try and play for us, but he's nowhere near what he was years ago. And yeah, I mean, when you're getting outbidded by Redcar, does it not show you how much of an issue we're in?
Yeah,
we've wanted Boyes for a while. I think he's always been linked to us every summer, but he just wouldn't budge from Mask. So it's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, it really is. But no, thank you for your time on that league, Jake. We really appreciate it. Any comments on that league, get them in as well. We'll come back to Jake a little bit later. So next we're going to move on to the Northern Premier League. We're going to be chatting to Peter about this as well. So starting with, obviously, Mars, Peter, we've got to mention them on the show, and obviously start with the sad news. I mean, Mars dropping out in the league, but it's nice to see that they are still going, looking to come back next season, the Northern League. But it's always sad to see a team actually drop out of the league at halfway point, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. They've come through the levels maybe a lot quicker than what they should have done, and it's the old scenario where if your facilities aren't up to the same level, you get a year to sort it out while you're trying to compete with teams at a higher level. So you're paying more money out for players. Pitch needed sorting out, all surroundings needed sorting out. So they've absolutely spent a fortune, but coming through the levels, I could never understand who was behind it when we kept losing players to them. Although we were at a higher level, we stood by our ground on what our budget was, and they were they were inflating the prices of players. Like Jakob says, even Darlington couldn't get a sniff of Boyes because they were just prepared to pay him over the odds. So. Although it's a shame, the previous regime have been a bit reckless in what they've been paying out. I've got friends there. Eddie Macker used to be chairman of Whitby. He's a fundraiser there. He's a great friend of mine. He does a lot for charity. He did wonders for Whitby Town, and he's tried to do wonders for Mask as well. There's Glenn Bowman. He's a real nice guy. He packed it in just before it all finished, and. Yeah, it's a massive shame, and I do hope they go into maybe Northern League second division or hopefully first division, and they get a chance to start again, but they do it more sensibly. At least they've still got a club though. That's the main thing. They could have lost everything, couldn't they? Including ground. They could have lost everything if that money hadn't been raised.
No, definitely. And just like I think Andrew was going to mention as well there about Mars as well, weren't you, on that point?
Yeah, so I've got my own thoughts on it. It's probably not what the average non-league fan will say, where it's like it's a shame and whatnot. Don't get me wrong, it is a shame, but it's what happens when you're so financially negligent, where you're spending so much on players. It's always nice to see a team punching above their weight. Maybe step 3 was a little bit too far for them, especially when you look at money coming in, and it's like Peter says, no one seems to know who the benefactor was or who the person was putting money in. If you look at South Shields, for example, you knew it was Jeff Thompson. If you look elsewhere, you know where it's coming from. But it was always a case at Mask where they were signing these fantastic players who should be playing in the National League or National League North. Easily. Adam Boyes should be playing National League North. But no one else could get a sniff because of the wages they were paying or bonuses they were paying or signing on fees they were paying. So, yeah, it is a shame, but it's what happens when you've seen it time and time again. Mask isn't the first club to spend way beyond their means and go bust, essentially. Now, I see people saying on Twitter when it happened, why isn't this club jumping in to help them, or why isn't Middlesbrough jumping in to help them? It's not their responsibility to pick up a financial mess, unfortunately. Again, I'm ever the diplomat, but it's not their responsibility at the end of the day. So it is sad, and hopefully they I think it'll probably be the second division of the Northern League, looking at the rules and whatnot. I think if they ended up getting put in the first division, if a few teams in there would be like, hold on, well, like, why are we getting relegated and Mask are getting drafted in, for example, when they've gone bust essentially, and it's not a new club, but they're starting again. So probably the second division would be fair, and just hopefully they get it right, is in like they don't spend beyond their means and just like again live within their means and just get it right. I know I've repeated myself there, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the whole matter. It's a shame, but it's what happens when you spend way beyond your means.
No, good point. Honestly, they're a great shout on that one as well. And Pete, the next team in the league, which is obviously yourself at Whitby. I know we had Nathan on last week, who's very happy at the moment, obviously challenging for the playoffs. Got a good squad this season. I mean, do you think they can stay in there now? Obviously, like you say, we touched on the start of the show of the games that they've got at home and obviously as well. Do you think that will be a massive play? Obviously, with teams having to come up here midweeks, pushing on towards the end of the season, if that could play in Whitby's hands.
Yeah, well, only thing is in this league, in the league that we play in, you can't take any team for granted. And to be fair, to be honest, we play better away than what we do at home. We pick more points up, and it's just one of them things. That's what does happen. We seem to play. I go to away matches, and we do really, really well away from home. Even with 10 men, we beat Radcliffe, top of the league, haven't lost a game. 10 men, beat them. Hyde United straight after we got beat at Bristol. Half time, 10 men, beat them. They're good at home. Even Morpeth, although they're not up at the top, they're they're a little bit behind us. They play far better at home than what they do away, and we beat them with 10 men. So that's 3 cracking results playing away from home with 10 men. It's unheard of. I would have said. Normally in previous years we'd have just collapsed and got absolutely pasted. 10 men after half an hour or 40 minutes or whatever.
That's it, isn't it? I mean, you touch on Morpeth as well, and like you say, they had a very slow start, but they've just kind of finished quiet the last few weeks. I mean, they played 9 between December and January, 1-4, drawn 4, and only lost to 1. Starting to climb that tail. It could be, like you say, like we touched on before, dark horses coming the end of the season and playoff positions.
Yeah. Well, as I said earlier, we've got games. We've only got 4 of the teams above us to play at home, and we've already played them all away. So, if it was a normal league, you'd think you were getting there, but it's not a normal league, just when you think you're somewhere near, somebody just comes and pokes your nose. Yeah. When you were talking about Kevin Phillips earlier on, when he came in, they appeared to be in quite a strong position when he came in. And I was just checking today, they were averaging over 2 points a game when he came in. And then in his last 19 games, they went down to 1.5. And his last 2 games was us at home, beating us 2-1. They had all celebrations all set up, ready for celebrating at the end of the match. We go out and score 2 goals, beat them 3-2. Oh, bloody hell. Players all fell to the ground, all these fully professional players. They couldn't even walk. When our players had to walk around them all like headstones, And then they go to Grantham, who were already relegated, and get beat again. So Kevin Phillips' motivational skills for a team that had everything going their way, and they couldn't do it. I think there were 4 points up with 4 games to go, and I wouldn't want to say anything bad against South Shields, because personally, in all years I've been watching Whitby Town, for a big team, their fans are absolutely, You know,
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
You know, really friendly, home or away. You know, not a bad word said. You know, we played big teams down at Whitby, and there's always absolute mayhem. Like, you know, bit of both from both teams, but I don't think you can fall out with South Shield supporters. They're so nice, you know.
What about
No,
us?
really good.
We're all right.
Pardon?
Yes.
Darlington. It was good when Darlington won league at Whitby. I was tuned in. I got up at 3 o'clock. I was watching Stranglers in Australia. Got up at 3 o'clock to listen to the second half and found out it was 6-0. I thought, bloody hell, I think I'll go back to bed.
Yeah.
But the good news was, I think it was 1,800 there, 1,500 from Darlington, £9 to get in, and most of them paid a tenner. So, you know, we got a good pasting, but we don't have ourselves secure 2 days previous, and I think we got about 20 grand out of that visit, so we didn't do so bad. We've got the mighty Macclesfield coming on Goth weekend Saturday, so that'll be they might not get anywhere near ground, and if they're thinking of stopping overnight, they'll have to pay a fortune, or they might find this going to be unlucky, like, you know. But that could be a pivotal fixture in both our seasons. That.
No, but thank you for your time on that bit, Peter. And before we touch on the Division 1 East with Andrew, I mean, Jacob just touching on about Darlow, and Ian just mentioned there, can you remember the Barney Thursday night back in the day, Whitby 7-1, just been on about it. But, I mean, just touching on Marsk and obviously what we just mentioned about the struggles that they've got, and I know you've been through it with Darlow yourself, and hopefully now I know they've still got the reserve team and people are still going on to watch that, but it'd just be nice, as you've seen it yourself, them to come back and hopefully back in the North League and hopefully start winning games of football again, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the most gutting feeling, obviously, losing your football club that you love and going back down at the start and where it all started. Obviously, it is tough, but it does get better. So as you can see, obviously, it's got better for us, but at the moment, it's gone worse times. But we've had our best times where we've gone up all the way. But obviously, yeah, it's such a difficult thing to be put through as a fan, especially.
Yeah, 100%. And now on to the Division 1 East with Andrew next. And like I say, this is one of my favourite leagues this season as well. I think it's fantastic, the teams that's in there. We start with Stockton, and obviously first at the moment. Like you say, we touched on, there's always that one time where there's a little blip. I know there's been a couple of draws, but I think with the manager that you've got there in the squad, especially the manager, how professional he is, I don't think you'll see a little blip. You might see another draw, but I think it will be very close come the end of the season between yourself, obviously, and Dunson. What's your thoughts so far on Stockton?
I think just before going on to Stockton, you mentioned the league. The league's one of the most fascinating in non-league. If you remember the non-league, not the non-league, the Northern League Division 1 maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, that was what the East Division is now. Like, you see the teams coming up, and obviously the Northern League Division 2 is losing a bit of quality, and then Division 1's losing a bit of quality, but this East Division is stacked now. So if you look at the Northern teams in there, or the Northeast teams in there, you've got them all within the top 10. And obviously you've got 2 teams that's just came up in the top 10, and you think, I remember the FA Vars days, and you could pretty much always guarantee that a Northeast team would be semi-finals or final. It's pretty much... Those days are pretty much gone now. It's probably safe to say, because of the quality that's taken that step up. So you've got Stockton, Hebburn, Dunstan, Consett, Aycliffe and Ashton. But that league is so stacked with talent. And that for me is the league to watch if you're a non-league fan. It's so entertaining. Anyone can beat anyone. And I think Peter touched on about the Premier Division. This East Division is so close. So close. You've got between Hebburn and I think it's 6th or 7th, there's only 3 or 4 points. And Peter said a team can come out of nowhere within the space of 3 or 4 games, and it's evident in that league as well. But yeah, just obviously going on to Stockton, obviously I worked there for 2.5 years, and I've only got good things to say about the club. It's the best club I've ever worked for. In the 10 years I've been involved in non-league, Michael done well, and I've got to say his backroom staff as well. You've got his assistant JD Briggs and the team. they've done such a marvellous job with that club, because they've been there a hell of a lot of time, by the way, from I think it was the Teesside League, I think, all the way through. So they've obviously stuck to the plan at the club, and it's paid off. And I think since they left the Northern League, there's been progression and progression and progression and progression. And obviously, I know you've had them 2 disappointing seasons where, not disappointing seasons, by the way, but disappointing where you've obviously lost in the playoff final.
Yeah.
They've obviously kicked on again. And obviously, I think the signings of Michael Sweet and Michael Fowler has taken them on once again. Like, they've taken that next step. And I think that's probably what they were lacking. And if you look at the goals that they're scoring, they've got consistency at the back as well. And I think they haven't been beaten in the league since late October. I think that's 12 games. It's absolutely incredible. And I don't see a blip coming. I've looked at their fixtures between now and the end of the season. I think if they can get a result at Dunstan, I think that's massive, because you look at the position where obviously Dunstan's got 4 games in hand. They're 10 points behind. And like I said, I'd rather have points on board than games in hand. But this Dunstan side is frightening. Someone that I used to work with, John McDonald, I've got a lot of time for him. He's done wonders with that team as well. And it wouldn't surprise me if that game goes either way on Saturday and then Dunstan continue to kick on, because if Dunstan win on Saturday, they're only 7 points behind with 4 games in hand. And anything can happen from there. So, yeah, I think Stockton just need they control their own destiny. And I think for them, they just need to take it one game at a time. And I think that's what Michael Dunwell is good at with this squad, reminding them that it is one game at a time and not, we've got this team in 3 weeks, and if this happens and this happens, it's one game at a time. You deal with the team in front of you, and that's it. So, yeah, I think they will win the league. That's my prediction, but I don't think it's cut and dry just yet.
Yeah. I know, like you say, how close it is. The next team on the list was Hebden at the time of writing. Obviously, there's some short plans out, and obviously after last night, Dunstan winning again, just like you say, 36 points ahead now, got another 3 points on the board. So we'll go to Dunstan next as well. And I mean, you just look at the games from December and January with Dunstan has played 5-1-5, and you can't say any better than that, really. But they're really strong stride, like you say, and you'll see with the teams that's in that league how strong it is. But I think with Dunstan, with the games in hand, I think it's going to be very close come the end of the season. With Stockton, but like you say, some great players for Dunstan at the moment, and like you say, some strikers on fire at the moment as well, isn't there?
It's 7 wins in a row for them, which is incredible in any league. I'm obviously just looking at my notes here, and they're 2 points off a Hebden side where maybe 8 weeks ago you were thinking they're title contenders, and then they've gone and won one game in their last 6 and just dropped right off, and Stockton's obviously pulled away. The last game I was down at was Stockton against Hebden, and I thought Stockton just controlled from start to finish, and it was men against boys that afternoon. And I know you can kind of look too much into one performance, but it really was men against boys. And from that afternoon, I thought, no, I can't see Hebden challenging for that title. I think they might get playoffs. I think probably will get playoffs, but they need to turn that form around. And then it comes back to Dunstan, where a side on the opposite end of the form scale, 7 wins in a row, and John McDonald's got them firing, and they've got talent across the board. So that game, I think I'm going to go to that game on Saturday, and it's going to be it should be a really entertaining one. Fingers crossed the weather stays dry and they get it on. I think the forecast is fine, by the way.
Yeah, sunshine tomorrow.
I hope so. But yeah, maybe the one thing that will or could hamper them is playing 3 games a week until the end of the season, potentially, if there's any more postponements. So I think they need to watch out for that. But I think the squad they've got and the management that they've got, I think they'll be just fine. I don't think they'll get the title. That's my prediction, and obviously people can say what they want, but I think they'll finish second. They'll have home advantage throughout the playoffs, and I would actually fancy them to win the playoffs as well. Obviously, they need to keep the form up and whatnot, but yeah, I think it could be Stockton first, Dunstan second, and then Dunstan to go up via the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Concert on 6 at the moment, 38 points. I know we chatted to Jason last night, but it's just nice to see so many of the local sides pushing for these players. It just shows you how good the North East is, the players that we've got as well. I know a lot of people say it's making the divisions below a little bit weaker, but it just shows you how strong they are, even pushing up from Northern League at next level, isn't it?
It is, and obviously if you look at the leagues across the UK, obviously we're going back a few years to Northern League when we were challenging all the years in the FAFRs. That talent has stepped up to step 4, and obviously the question was all that time when promotion from the Northern League started was, do these players want to travel? Does teams have the budget to pay them for the travel? Whereas there's no talk about that now, and that's good to see, because you always like to see that progression. You don't want teams sitting back in the Northern League and just, we'll sit back in the Northern League, we'll have a good run in the VARs, but we're not really that bothered about going up. Whereas teams now, obviously, if you look, you've got 6 teams. Yeah, 6 teams from the North East in there, and obviously Concert flying 1 point off the playoffs, and yeah, they're another dark horse that could sneak in. It's one of those, come back to what Peter says, where it's like you put a run of 3 or 4 wins together and you go from here to here. So you go up a few places quite easily in that league, because there's not very many points separating maybe like 6 or 7 teams. So they could be one to watch, and easily so could Aycliffe and Ashton as well, if they put a run together.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned obviously Aycliffe as well, and I mean, 2 of the sides that came to struggle at the start of the season, but it's really pushed on now. I think a lot of credit must go to Brian Atkinson. I know a lot of people's put his name forward for January Manager of the Month again in the group as well, just doing a fantastic job. You look really scary at the start of the season, kind of think, are they going to win a few games here compared to what they're doing now? Absolutely flying at the moment. I think they've won the last 7, won 5, and just lost the 2. A lot of respect for them, isn't it?
I think you have to give them a lot of respect, but also a lot of credit. Obviously, I like to have a look on Twitter as to what the talk is around teams, like at the start of the season and even like midway through the season. And I think going into the season, there was a lot of talk. Would they handle themselves? I always thought with the squad that they would, but there was a lot of talk that they might not, and they'd be fighting at the bottom and whatnot. But if you look at the teams in that league, they were always going to have a little bit too much for certain teams. And even if they had a mid-table finish in their first season there, that was a really good achievement. They've got a semi-final to look forward to in the Durham Challenge Cup, for example. And then they're also only 5 points off the playoffs. So, again, a good run and 3 or 4 wins in a row, and they could find themselves in the top 5. And I think it's going to go like that all season between now and April. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. But again, it comes back to my point from the start that league is probably the best for me to watch. You can go to any game in that league and there'd be a show put on, and you'd come away thinking, wow, that was actually really good.
Oh, excellent. Ian just sitting there. Thank you so much, everyone, for a great show. And he's off to bed now, so good night, Peter. And thank you for your comments all night. It's been really appreciated throughout the night as well. So I'm just going to go back around just one more time, just to kind of get your thoughts with your clubs kind of going now forward for the rest of the season. So we'll come to Jacob first. Jacob, and obviously Dalton, what's your prediction now between the end of the season? What league position are you going for?
18th.
I
reckon if we kick on and just get some points and just get some wins, because you got teams around us like Kings Lynn who shouldn't be down there, especially with their budget as well. They've got a much bigger budget than us. There's teams down that sort of end of the table that can slip up and they can gain points. So we've just got to compete. We've got to get our points ourselves. And I mean, if we just stay up, then I'm happy. But if we go down, we go down. But just got to wait and see what happens. We'll see what tricks Stevie has up his sleeve, because Stevie and Terry are going to work the magic.
They are. I can see it now. I think they'll stay up 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And come across the
We're too big to go down.
Yeah, I think you'll stay up. Honestly, I think you will. And across to yourself next, Peter and Whippy, between now and the end of the season, how do you think they'll see at the end of the season? You think they'll make the playoffs?
I would hope so. Just going back to Darlington, guy who was top scorer in our league, I think Margaret, who was Matlock scored prior to getting his 5 goals knocked off that he scored against Mass. He'd scored 33 goals in 30 games. Now he's scored 28 in 28, and Kingsland have just taken him. So they're obviously, although they're spending a fortune, they spent a fortune on him as well. And one thing I can't understand about Darlington is they got rid of Jakob Hazel, and I don't know if there was any history, but within a month he was Boston United's supporters player of the month. And now you've got Jazim Suka, who always give 100% for Whitby and seemed to be doing real well at Darlington before your last manager. He's now playing at Scarborough, 13th League. And Darlington
blame Josh Gowland. Simple as that.
The Gowland effect.
Yeah,
I heard anybody from North East was just blanked out, like, weren't they?
Well, Suka didn't put a foot wrong. He was manager's player for under Armstrong. I liked him as a player, but he started off the year very, very poorly. He wasn't playing well, and he wasn't playing well for a while, and he just sort of lost his touch. Obviously, Gowland didn't like him, so he's no use really, and it's a shame to see. Hazel as well, like, was our main man with him and Beck, and then he went on a dry sort of run once Beck left, and just didn't hit the heights that he was, and he just didn't look like he wanted to play for us anymore, and obviously went and got sold to Boston, and he's flying. He's found his form again, and that's the Hazel that we all know and love.
Yeah,
simple as that.
Yeah, with Whitby Town, I've sort of already mentioned that part about where I hope we're going to be. I think the only thing that could possibly defeat us, same as with Dunstan, is if we can't get these matches in. But the saving grace is, as it's going, if we do end up playing 3 games a week, at least the midweek games are definitely going to be at home, because it's the home matches we haven't been playing. The squad's good enough. Kobe Shepherd, we've been without him for quite a long spell of time. He came back last game we played and did fine. Come on as a sub match before, then played. Lather was filling in for him as well. He's a utility player who can play anywhere. Unfortunately, he's back on bench now, but he looked after left back position for Kobe Shepherd. As I said, Joe Wheatley was very impressive last February. Lasted 10 minutes at Guiseley, second match of the season, and his groin went again. And it said, I keep asking how players are coming on, and he's due. He's training, so he's due back any time. So he's going to be like a new player. We've lost Connor Simpson, but he didn't play anyway because he had a hernia problem. And he also got 4 teeth kicked out at, I think that was at Bradford Park Avenue. So he's had it tough. But anyway, he's emigrating to Australia now, so he's quite happy with that. One of the questions I was supposed to answer was FA Cup, and I never. Right, FA Cup. I always tell the people in charge at Whitby Town and the managers as they come in, right, up till November, you need to focus on the FA Cup. Because from 1969, when Whitby Town played York City and I went as a 12-year-old, I said, that's where you want to be. First round of the FA Cup, take it from there. I've managed to see Whitby Town now 14 times in either first round replay or second round. And when Whitby Town went to Bristol, it was great to see my expectations absolutely raised when I saw all young uns who had been starved of success. 20 years ago we played at Hartlepool, so anybody who's under 30 would not have seen Whitby in an FA Cup first round match, and it was absolutely amazing to see them all there. Really, really enjoying themselves, and obviously
really special.
In this day and age, I was on committee when Whitby were successful in 80s, and it was always a gamble to do well in FA Cup because there was no sponsorship from FA, so you'd be playing extra games And unless you got to first round, potentially you could get knocked out in fourth qualifying round, depending who you've been playing. And you play a load of games and end up out of pocket. Whereas now, you've always got the sponsorship money to rely on. So, you know, Whitby Town took thick end of just over 20 grand in sponsorship money. And then they've obviously got money from the Bristol Rovers game. They also got a little bit of money out of BBC and streaming companies because match was on live on some streaming companies outside the country. So I was disappointed at the time, and I think Nathan was disappointed that the club didn't invest some of what they'd taken in the team. But now we've had this weather. You know, we've had 5,000 people through gate all season in league matches. And we're competing with Macclesfield, who had 4,000 through gate just on Saturday at enhanced prices. You know, one game. You know, and we're competing with them. So all credit to the people who are running the club, and all credit to the management. You know, we're a little town, 12,500, playing against big town, big city teams. You know, both you lads, I'd like to be league below, league above, because I could nearly walk to Summit Grounds, whereas. We've got 3 teams within 90 mile of us: Morpeth, Bradford Park Avenue, and Guiseley. And then everything else, Christ Almighty, could be anywhere.
It's a nice local town, Bradford Park Avenue against
Our bank holiday fixtures this year, because South Shields got promoted, was our local derby was Ilkeston.
Oh wow!
Absolutely crazy.
Just a few miles down the road, that.
Yeah, just a few. But FA Cup. It's. I think it's certainly helped us this year. And there weren't many North East teams. I don't think even Hartlepool got to the first round, did they? They were straight out. Oh, but just a point on that Hartlepool match when they beat us 4-0. I don't know if any of you are aware. 20 years ago, they ended up in. We were over at Moon because we went to Hartlepool and we sold out their end, you know, for visiting fans. It was about 850 went and got absolutely tonked 4-0. So it was, you know, Bristol was a lot better getting beat 7-2 because at least we could celebrate a couple of goals. And when we equalised and when we got to 4-2, we thought, oh, are we back in it? Are we back in it? But it was a one-way, it was one-way show there with Marco Gabardini, believe it or not, shining for them. Well, they went on to the third round. And believe it or not, they ended up at Sunderland with 10,000 fans there and got beat 1-0. Julio Arco scored for Sunderland. And I said, the video of that match, and Hartlepool should have won. They were absolutely brilliant, you know. So, you know, it's all, as we think we've done well going to the first round, they think they did well because they got to the third round, won't they? And brilliant to see 10,000 poolies at Stadium of Light, like, you know. And it was brilliant.
Just one on Macclesfield.
Whitby fans.
Just one on Macclesfield, Peter. What do you and other clubs think of them? So I know they've kind of been reborn and then gone through the leagues, but like that incident where they've put the prices up and they've got 4,000 fans, and like, what's the thought among like Town and other clubs?
Town charged £12 and £8 for concessions, and they charged £17 and £13 for concessions. But there was 4,000 there. Did you see the banner, the Radcliffe banner?
No.
Oh yeah. Oh, there was a massive banner up, and it's all over. It's all over Northern NPL site. They had this big white banner up with £17, and it said Robin Savage.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on Twitter.
The thing is, it's a League Two ground, but every single team that goes there takes pictures in toilets. It's horrendous. I saw a picture one week at gents' toilet roll inside this like plastic box, and it was just a roll of black mould. You know, things like that. And then their supporters chip in by saying, well, we only go in second down Portaloos. And you think, well, what's it all about? But there's nothing for the visiting fans. They keep you off this blue carpet. If there isn't many, you have to sit down. We were stood around the corner when we went with Whitby, Got beat 2-1, getting beat 2-0, got beat 2-1. Scored a goal which weren't behind the line, it was behind the bloody post in the last minute. A photo of it and a video of it, not Macclesfield's fault, but the referee and linesman didn't see it, so we got robbed, you know. And like I say, we competed with them, and so do every other team. You know, they play at home, and it's told our story, isn't it? You go to a big team with a big crowd, and you have to play, don't you?
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm proud of our team. We've been, you know, some people say it's lack of it's lack of ambition. We've been in the same league 25 years. They say it's lack of ambition, but you know, I think we punch above our weight for a town so small. And there's one thing we can say that a lot of teams can't say: we've never ever been relegated, because we're in Northern League First Division when you could only get re-elected. We never got relegated into the Second Division. We went straight into the league you lads are in now, which was Unibond First Division, straight through that, straight into this league in 1998, and there we are. We've escaped a couple of times. There was one time Camel Laird, like all teams have to do, you have to battle to get your ground up to scratch, don't you? We finished fourth from bottom, and Camel Laird got kicked out, so they're on the only relegated 3. So we've had one or two lucky escapes, but now we're more a mid-table, or certainly this says mid-table, thinking we can maybe do a little bit better, like, you know. But
really
if we happen to do well, I would say that we're going to have to invest a lot of money on what you would call visiting fans facilities and stuff like that, new entrances, all sorts of things, like, you know, because our ground's been good for Northern League, it's been good for this league we're in, but when you start moving in where you're bringing in massive amounts of people, I know when we played Scarborough, FC United and South Shields before, and that Darlington match, you know, we've had big crowds in, but when it's every week, you know, you just you have to do it a different way, so it's a massive expense, isn't it, you know. But I'd like to give it a try, you know. If we went up and come straight back down again, you know, at least we've given it a try, haven't we, you know?
Oh, exactly, 100%. No, like I say, really looking forward to see what he does for the rest of the season. And finishing with yourself, Andrew, obviously you mentioned Stockton there.
The local teams, but there's more local teams in league above than what there is in league we're in. You know, there's some brilliant fixtures there. You know, you've just been mentioning them all, haven't you? Plus we've got the Yorkshire lads like Farsley and whatever close to us. So there's a good 6 or 7 teams who are very close to where we are. And our friends Scarborough, of course, but they'll be going up, won't they?
No, there's some good games. And we just obviously talked about Stockton before, and I mean, obviously winning the league. Do you think that's going to be the first position, and do you think how many points by?
I think so. Yeah. I think in terms of how many points they're going to win it by, maybe with 3 games to go, I think they'll win it on that 3rd game to go, and then the 2 after that will be quite relaxed, so to speak. If you put me on the spot for the top 5, by the way, I think I did touch upon it before. I think Stockton first. Dunstan will get 2nd place.
Yeah.
I think Belp is a bit of a dark horse, although they've slipped up 1 or 2 times recently. I think Belp will be 3rd. I think Concert will be 4th. And Hebden will scrape 5th. But I'm just looking at the league table here, and it's just like I've made them predictions, and I could be horrifically wrong. All 4 of them teams might not even be in them playoffs. It's that close, because you've got Pontefract outside the playoffs. You've got Colton in the playoffs at the minute, and then you've got the likes of Newton Aycliffe, North Ferriby, Ashton. Any one between 2nd and 10th can get one of them playoff places, and it's going to be fascinating to watch. But yeah, I think Stockton will win it by on that 3rd last game, pushing the 2nd last game, and then I think we'll have at least 2, maybe 3 of the 4 in Northeast teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, that should be a great run at the end of that.
Yeah, so
season.
there's a better chance of North East teams coming up than not coming up, isn't there?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was just saying to Rainey there. I think Stockton and Dunstall will be the two.
6 out of 10 are North East, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah,
6 out of top. So yeah, it's good. It's great news, that.
Yeah.
So if we stop where we
are, after all, you might have 2 North East teams joining in the third. Yeah.
We'll be spoilt for choice with local derbies then.
But no, lads, Peter, Jacob, Andrew, honestly, thank you so much for coming out. It's been a pleasure talking to you, going over the leagues, some cracking stories as well. So I really appreciate the support as always, lads. And I hope everyone that's been watching have enjoyed the show and some great comments coming as well. But no, thank you so much, lads, and hope you all enjoy the rest of your night as well.
Brilliant. Cheers for having me,
Thank you.